Welcome to Cloud Dialogues. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome to Cloud Dialogues. Well, kind of live. It's live when it's recorded. Recorded live from Las Vegas and London. AWS Reinvent again. I was told 72,000 people registered,
Oh, wow.
which is more than last year. We don't know how many actually turned up. Let's assume a good number of those people turned up.
And I would
there was
imagine
also,
there's people that show up that don't register
yes,
because they
there's
come just to meetings and stuff, right? And don't
Yep,
actually go into the conference. So getting a
yep.
true read on how many people actually come to Vegas for reInvent would be challenging.
Yeah, and they also have on-site registration too. It did seem like there was a lot more people. The expo hall is as large as ever. It's just incredible. I haven't even had breakfast or coffee because it would take me probably half an hour round trip to get out of my hotel, down the lift, find the
I haven't
right
had
place and
coffee.
stuff.
That's insane.
And so the structure is breakout sessions, which are recorded. There's chalk talks where people stand up, talk about topics, and there might be the audience asking questions, and workshops and hands-on and game days and all that sort of stuff. Something for everyone. This year they did something new called PeerTalk, and you can book a meeting with someone. It's meant to be about connecting with other people in a similar field to you. So PeerTalk, they had that last year and this year, but this year they added something new, which was PeerTalk meetups. This is slightly different because they had a pre-selected bunch of topics: AI, modernization, all sorts of different areas, and I got an opportunity to co-host one around modernizing enterprise applications, and that was actually quite interesting. We had like 10 people turn up, and we're just basically on a round table and kick off the discussion, and people talk about problems they're having in the organization. It actually ended up being about more organizational and how to change and how to kickstart projects, that sort of thing, which are the common sort of things that people come across, right?
I feel like
Doing
that's
these sorts of things.
very true to form. Most transformational problems are not technical problems. They're people-related problems. And I think most organizations underplay how much that's going to be a factor in their transformation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why these sort of things are invaluable, because you get to hear other people's experiences. And one of the people in my group said that's all he did all week, is go to these meetups and discussing different topics with people and getting different points of view. Because sometimes you meet a lot of people, but they might be doing something quite different to you. This sort
Absolutely.
of gets people on a common subject to talk about.
What were the announcements, Matt? Tell me about the announcement.
So Apple was on stage, which
Ooh.
was weird.
Yeah, that's a bit of
So
like, again, two worlds colliding.
Matt Garman, keynote. They had Apple come out. Apple don't go on any keynotes except their own.
No. Yeah.
So I might fact check
Breaking a rule.
But they revealed that they use AWS Compute for their ML and AI and Apple Intelligence. And they're using 10 regions, 10 AWS regions.
Right, wow.
And they use Graviton. So
They are.
AWS is that they've had since 2019. And
did they announce a new type of Graviton instance?
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, there's another Graviton and Trainium. They usually do a new version sort of every year. And Apple were using x86 for their ML, but they moved to Graviton and they got a 40% efficiency.
Wow.
And that's the thing with Graviton. It's cheaper to run. It's more efficient, and you get faster throughput. The other interesting statistic from that was that there's more Graviton today than the whole of compute that AWS had in 2019.
Wow.
So
that's a transition.
They had a lot of compute in 2019.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've got a lot more now, but the fact that there's more Graviton today than then,
crazy.
It's just mind-blowing. That's a good one. And it's with this sustainability objective.
Well, that would be much better for the environment, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it greenwashing or is it legitimately better for the environment? I think it's legitimately better for the environment, isn't it?
Well, it's using less power. So yes, it is. It's much better for the environment.
Collectively, though, we're probably doing a lot more computing, so it's probably not actually better for the environment because of the amount that compute has increased. It's like, well, we've actually offset any benefits by the amount of machine learning and AI that we're using.
Maybe, but a lot of the chips set up for that sort of stuff, like Trainium for training AI and doing inference, like specific chips for specific outcomes. And the video obviously are big in this as well. We've got efficient GPU cores to do a whole bunch of AI and LLM stuff. One other key takeaway is that user interaction expectations, I'm not sure where this data came from, but in general, like back in the 90s, right, everyone expected a website. So 1995, 2000s, everyone expected everyone to have a website presence.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 2010s, 2015s, everyone expected to have a mobile app on their phone to be able to interact with their brands and websites and stuff. And now everyone is expecting there'll be AI agents around to provide value to customers. So now you're asking questions and there's agents in the back end doing workflows and getting information for you to be able to help with your queries. That's an interesting transition. One of the key differences between this year and last year. Last year, AWS were playing a lot of catch up with AI, and it felt like a lot of the announcements didn't really have much behind them. An example is Amazon Q on the website. It really didn't know very much when you asked it questions and got it wrong a lot of the time. They rushed the brand to market last year.
I think they were on the back foot, right?
Yeah, exactly. OpenAI took the world. Microsoft took the world, took the market around this stuff.
Didn't they blame that on Adam, and that's why they brought Matt in?
Maybe. But this year, I think it's more practical announcements. And one of the announcements, which I find quite interesting, is Bedrock guardrails, automated reasoning checks. One of the problems we have in LLM world is hallucinations.
Hallucinations, yeah.
And that's why you've got to have the right models, the right guardrails, the right fine-tuning, or the right prompts, all those sorts of things. But you can have all that and still get hallucinations.
Yeah.
So,
And I think because they announced the guardrails originally at Summit earlier in the year, and I think the general feedback was that it wasn't life-changing.
No. But I think this one includes the ability to have mathematical checks. The response, putting the responses you get are actually within the bounds of expected. And if they're out of that, then I won't give it to you.
Yeah.
So I haven't really dug into what that means yet, but I think that might be an interesting innovation if it says what it does on the tin.
Interesting.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm not sure how much of that is being done. The other providers. Another interesting one is intelligent prompt routing. So usually when you do your prompting in LLM world, you have to pick the right model, see if you get the right answer. You might have to change models. This one actually can route between models in the same family. Quick look before the show. If you do a query for something on Claude Sonnet, for example, it might go to Haiku or one of the other ones in the same family to get a result, and you get the best result. So it's about sort of bit of automation around the back end, sending it to different models to get the best response. And on this point, I think there'll be a lot more of that. I know one particular example where they've set up their own intelligent prompt routing between, say, OpenAI and Bedrock, and that's a lot more complicated thing to do, but it allows you to have that sort of backup ability if one's down, for example, not necessarily around the response. If you have an LLM that's down, then you can route it to one that might be good enough, and that way your platform's not down. Because the last thing you want is to be reliant on a particular LLM to serve your customers, especially for these proprietary models that you can't really host yourself.
I would assume that they have different dependencies.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd have to test
I mean, you would hope.
as well. Exactly. So that was quite interesting. One thing that is really important for enterprise organizations, AWS has done not a great job around policy control, general policy control across your AWS environment for organizations. They've got different sort of controls and guardrails and things that you can put in place, put it in code and repeat it across multiple accounts to be able to control those accounts. There's a new thing called declarative policies for organizations, which means a lot of these policies, like, for example, make sure encryption is enabled everywhere. You can now set it once in one place, and you haven't been able to do that before.
Yeah, right.
So that's really cool, and that's actually bringing them up to what Microsoft can do with their policies.
And I feel like that's really important for like your governance model. Like if you're saying that for your whole organization, they need to encrypt in whatever way, you should be able to just deploy that once in one section, right? It shouldn't be that difficult. Otherwise, I feel like that's like an automated guardrail that organizations need.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's limited services at the moment. I think that'll roll out pretty quickly to a lot of other things. That's
good for regulated industries.
Exactly. And a lot of enterprises, especially banks, for example, and government organizations. I think that technically that was a pre-invent announcement like last week, but I thought it was quite important. So VMware has had quite a discussion this year with
just a little bit,
with Broadcom pulling the licensing to run the VMware service on AWS. A bit of complexity there. And AWS announced like a week or two ago of a new elastic VMware service that they are going to run themselves.
I'm assuming it's not called VMware something. They wouldn't be able to do that. It is. Okay. How are they allowed to do that?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know, but they announced it. Obviously, they're compliant with the licensing and everything. I think it's trialing in one region to start. But they're still going hard on migrating away from VMware. And I know organizations that, as hard as they can, they just cannot because of various reasons. So there is still a need to have some VMware.
Should it be, because obviously organizations are going to be hit with high licensing fees for existing. That's my understanding, right? Is that they'll be hit with high fees for existing workloads. Does that mean they'll be able to migrate more easily
from VMware to VMware?
Yeah, yes. Like if they're on the because I'm assuming there's like a proprietary stack supported by VMware.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they should be able to migrate onto the AWS version more cheaply, I would assume.
Exactly. Like the old way. It should be fairly straightforward. There's limited detail available on this, right?
I wonder how much refactoring there will be.
Usually not much, but usually it's an interim move. Usually people only do it if they have to get out of a data center super quickly. It's like a staging ground before they go more cloud native.
I feel like a lot of organizations say they're going to do that, but they don't.
Yeah, they do. That is true. So that was announced again just prior to reInvent, which I thought was interesting because the rest of the year up until now, AWS has been hard on funding people moving from VMware to native EC2 and native cloud services. So I think that they're still going to keep that option for those people who do need VMware because that service is still available in Google and Microsoft. The reason I bring it up is because there was an announcement this week around exporting your VMware configuration. There's some Q developer functionality for transforming VMware workloads to help pull in your config, do whatever it needs to do to be able to migrate and make that process a lot easier. So I think that's a big difference between Amazon Q developer last year and this year. The Q brand is a little bit confusing because it means different things. Q developer is probably the Q that is useful from a developer and a migration perspective. There's a whole bunch of stuff around migrations, Q developer helping with those VMware migrations. There's another one around investigating operational issues with your environment using Q developer. So, and I think Q developer, my understanding, uses sort of Claude at the back end now, not the.
Is this like Anthropic meets observability?
Maybe. I haven't delved into it. It's saying operational issues. So yeah, absolutely. If you've got the observability data, it should be able to help investigate potential causes of operational issues, fix this thing, make this thing bigger or whatever needs to be done to. And here's the code. Oh, there's the problem in the code right there. I can see a lot of potential here. So it'd be quite interesting.
Cool.
And also mainframe modernization has always been a thing for the past few years. Q developer has this thing to simplify mainframe modernization. And you know what it does? It actually converts COBOL code to more modern, options. So again,
Interesting.
they must have done some fine tuning or something around COBOL, but that kind of makes sense because there's so much legacy code out there.
So much.
And last year when they did their big, AI thing, they made a big song and dance about automatically moving from old Java versions to new Java versions. I think this is the first major new language conversion. Well, this is like from COBOL to some other language, actually. Let me click on the link.
I wonder if
and
we're
see if it
like
tells me.
I wonder if we're using AI to refactor old code, say 30% of our code has been refactored by AI. Does it mean that 30% is going to hold similar vulnerabilities? Therefore, we might
Well,
be
that's the thing.
increasing our
Possibly.
vulnerability profile,
Yeah.
depending on just a thought.
Maybe, but then maybe you have to pair that with,
I mean, ideally,
you might have
right?
to run it through a security. There might be a fine-tuned security model that can pick up any obvious security vulnerabilities after you've done the conversion. So I've just looked it up, and it converts COBOL into like Java or Groovy, or I have heard of Groovy before. That's interesting.
Groovy.
Groovy, what a cool
Groovy.
language name. And there's some also announcements around, and when you convert that code, you want to automate your testing as well to make sure your expected inputs match your outputs. So I think QDeveloper does a lot around that automated testing as well and automated documentation. So there's been a lot of
Developers will
additions.
love that.
Exactly. For that. So that sounds really promising. The last one, actually, I've got two last ones.
Mm-hmm.
The second last one is SageMaker has been very confusing to me, and I'm a technical person.
Very
And
confusing to you.
it has a lot of
Me
different
too.
elements to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's this thing called Lakehouse, SageMaker Lakehouse, and it promises to be the central hub of all your data,
Mm-hmm.
Data catalog, querying, and everything. So it might be a new data platform. Oh, let's see. The data story on AWS has always been a bit disparate. They kind of need a central way to bring it all together. And the last thing is Aurora DSQL. So this is kind of a technical announcement, but it's actually quite significant because they announced Amazon Aurora DSQL, which is basically a Postgres compatible database,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually really serverless. So they've done various iterations of ones with serverless in the name that aren't really serverless,
Mm-hmm.
because they always keep an instance running, which you have to pay
To a
for.
certain degree, yes. They don't scale to
Exactly.
zero, right?
Exactly. But this one apparently does, and it's multi-region, and it's strongly consistent across multi-region. So they've done a whole lot of work on the back end to keep the consistency between multiple regions. Normally, when you deploy a database, you've got to have all this networking and VPC and a private network. There's all these extra things that enterprises have to do. And this provides a way of completely having a highly scalable database that you can easily connect to using standard authentication methods. It has a lot of promise. It doesn't have all the features of Postgres, but all the existing clients can connect to it. So it's fully compatible, up until a point, and then they'll keep adding features to it. It's something to look at. It's in preview, and there's no pricing. How the pricing turns out for that. It looks quite impressive. There's a whole heap of Bedrock. You just have to Google AWS Bedrock, what's new, and there's a whole heap of other sort of Bedrock ones. But I think most seem to be practical and useful. There might be a few little magical ones there that maybe aren't that useful, but in general, I think it's a lot better than last year.
I feel like last year was like, let's pretend everything is AI.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's just add AI to everything. Just put AI on the end of it. I'll put AI on the end of it, and it's just like,
exactly.
I think everyone sees through it.
Yeah.
And I think even Summit was a bit like that.
Yeah, Summit was very much like that. And
yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen this year. Like, because you probably had the same feeling because your Summit was a few weeks after ours, and I think you got the same sort of vibe.
I think it leads to a lot of like failed use cases, which runs this cycle of like people being disappointed with technology. And it's like, if we were just a bit more realistic about what it actually does, I think it would help a lot of people and organizations.
Exactly. a good combination of data announcements, because data is the way
Data is
AI
fundamental,
to
right?
work, and AI and LLM and Bedrock sort of announcements is good because you're building up the picture. In consulting, people were sold the dream that you need to do all these cool things and you'll get all these magical returns, but the reality didn't really matter. I think the next sort of 12 months will be a bit different.
Yeah.
Especially if people have done their experiments and maybe they've gone back to their data and worked out, oh, crap, we probably better fix that first, and then we can start again. I think that's kind of the summary for our audience.
Yeah. What else did you get up to while you were there? I thought I heard about something else, like, I don't know, a podcast.
Oh, right. Yes. Rob gave me the opportunity to go into cloud realities. You know,
Can
these
I
people
just
very
say,
well.
Matt, that you're cheating on me?
But you cheated on me first. You cheated on
No,
me first.
it was
But
very
we're equal
cool.
now.
It was very
It was
cool.
good.
I was very excited to listen to you guys. It was like two worlds colliding. I'm a big fan. Definitely check it out after you've listened to this podcast. Check
Yes.
out the
Day
Vegas
zero. Day
episode of
one. I
Cloud
think it was day
Realities.
one. Yep. The
Matt,
day one cloud
Matt's
realities.
all over the first 15 minutes.
They gave me a book and some mints, so that was good.
Oh, well, excuse me. I didn't get anything.
Oh, really? You've probably already got them.
Unbelievable. Oh dear.
That's one thing. A lot of the companies book out the restaurants, and this year it felt like all the restaurants were all booked out all around the
Really?
conference, like by Deloitte, Capgemini, Mongo, just all of.
Oh yeah,
It
of
was
course,
just.
because
I
Pat
felt
had
like
the
more than.
Yardbird, right?
Yeah, that's where we did the recording, and it just felt
It
more
was
than
chaos.
last year.
Interesting.
And but it's crazy that happens.
I think it was a good year to be there. I think 2024 was a good year to be at Reinvent.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, except for all the background noise. Like the whole week is like you walk
Just
around,
chaos.
like
Yeah.
noise,
It's a lot.
and then there's music, and then there's the gambling, and then we've got the Cowboys coming at the end of the week for Cowboy Christmas.
You'll probably be pretty excited to get back to suburban Melbourne.
Oh, it's definitely a different vibe when I'm home. But that'll be a little while from now. So yeah, so that's it from us.
Is that us done for the year? Are we saying goodbye for the year?
At this stage, probably, unless we get some sort of magical
Magical
There's a
idea.
couple of things we've got a couple of ideas in train. I'm not sure that we'll get them done before the end of this year, but
No, and I
we
mean,
can
I
probably
think
say this is it for the end of the year.
regardless, we'll be recording in London in early January. So if anyone has a guest that they think would be good to join us in London in around January 25th,
so yeah, it's sort of the
then
late
please
part of
shout,
January.
because we'll get a studio and actually organize ourselves a little bit and do a bit of a what's cloud in 2025.
Yes.
Exciting.
2025 already almost.
All right. Well, tell us who you want to get on here in mid-January when we come back from our respective holidays. Where are you going?
I'm going to Rome and London.
Of course, you're coming here, but that's not a Christmas holiday.
I'm not doing it. What am I doing?
That's a few weeks away.
It's actually just over a month, but anyway. It's coming up very fast. Christmas, Yarrawonga country.
Lovely.
For me.
Lovely. I think I'm going to go to Germany.
A few days. Nice.
So yeah, try to fit in some Christmas markets. We're finishing up on the 17th, supposedly,
really?
provided everything goes well. Provided nothing bad happens. I'm finished on the 17th. I'll be back on the 2nd. Anyway,
cool.
Tell us who you want us to get on here in 2025. Thanks everyone for listening. You have no idea how much we appreciate you. And we'll see you back here in a few weeks' time.
All right.
Bye.
See you all. Bye.